Hi there, everyone. This is Sarah from Myosh. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Today, the topic is finding what works and doing more of it. Before I introduce Annette, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, we'll endeavour to get them answered at the end of the session. Please use the Q&A panel. I do believe Annette's going to involve some interaction, so hopefully you can join in, and I think that will be done via the chat panel. Uh, as with all our webinars, this webinar attracts CPD points with the Australian Institute of Health and Safety, and the webinar will be recorded and shared later on, and that will be via a video and a podcast also. So Annette Gray is today's presenter. She's an experienced and insightful coach, facilitator and speaker on solution-focused coaching and mentoring. Her passion is developing leaders, safety professionals, and mentors to be more coach-like and taking a solution-focused approach that will help them achieve change fast. Annette has trained more than 7,500 leaders and has over 1,500 hours of coaching in the construction, infrastructure, education, and finance industries. And Annette is also the director of Annette Gray Consulting. So thanks for joining us, and over to you, Annette. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. We're up to 30 participants, so really wanting to make this conversation an interaction. So be ready to be involved, be ready to write your comments in the chat bar, because I really want to make this an interactive session as much as you can be on a webinar. So the topic is finding what works and doing more of it. Over the last 3 years, I've got more involved in the construction and infrastructure sector, and really doing a lot more with safety professionals and leaders in those fields. So I've got a bit of a sense of the context that you work within. But I want to start with telling you a little bit about me and my journey to where I've come from today, because conversations are about relationship, and so it's really good for us to know each other's background if we're wanting to influence people. So Sarah's already said that I've trained 7,500 leaders into being coach-like across many sectors. I've been a coach since 2001, and so I have got coaching certifications. And only yesterday, I became a qualified coach supervisor from the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. So I'm lucky I can put that badge up now. I'm passionate about solution focus, and I know many of you will be aware of doing safety differently. And solution focus is actually the premise of doing safety differently. It has a lot of solution focus principles behind it. So today I want to give you a taste of what is being solution focused. And one thing it's not about come to me with solutions, don't come to me with problems. It's not that at all. So we're going to be really unpacking that. I'm connected to a global association called Solution Focus in Organisation, and I'm set up Solution Focus Down Under. So that's something that you can tap into later, and I can share with you where do you get that information on LinkedIn. I'm an ocean swimmer, and I also mentor people to learn how to ocean swim. And I was only just having a brief conversation with Sarah before we started. Passionate about being in the ocean and being in nature. So I do that quite regularly. And connected to the charity called Can2, who train people to be ocean swimmers. And that's where I'm a mentor with. I live in Sydney. I have a husband and 2 daughters, and I'm also on the advisory board for the Health and Safety Index, and actually do some work with Mike Wright from the Health and Safety Index, where I help support implementing the results of the Health and Safety Index in our organisations. So I do group coaching. So let me begin with saying, what happens in your interactions with people? Yeah. Do you help inflate the balloon of the other person? So you're the balloon down the bottom, they're the one up the top. Do you help keep the balloon inflated and get it more inflated? Or are your person in your interactions actually deflate the balloon? So today we're really going to be looking at how can you keep the balloon inflated and inflate it even more? Yep. I love this analogy. I actually stole it from one of my solution-focused practitioners in Germany, who she described it in that way. And I thought that's if the essence of conversation, that's what it does. It actually helps inflate the balloon. So first point of interaction is, do you think change happens by understanding problems in great detail, or do you think it's by understanding the solution is going to help with change? Can you put in the chat a P for understanding the problems will help change occur, or ignoring the problems and staying focused on the solution? Just put it a P for problem, S for solution. Oh, we've got a bit of even so far. Lots of S's. Oh, a few P's coming through. Lots of P's. Okay. Oh, Avril, thank you. Bit of both. Okay, let's have a look then. Let's have a look at what might happen here if we focus on ignoring the problem and really understanding the solution to the nth degree. So where we're heading today is we're going to look at the difference between problem talk and solution talk. And then I'm going to go into a little bit about what is solution focus, what is the principles behind solution focus, and how they can impact you in every interaction, whether it was with colleagues, with clients, with bosses, with family members, how it can actually change your relationships with other people. And then we're going to understand where do you actually orientate the conversation? Are you one to ask problem-focused questions, or do you ask solution-focused questions? And then we're going to do a little bit about how do you listen, and then your reflections. I want some interaction around that. So how will you know today's session has been useful? Given what you've heard already, or given what enticed you to sign up and come on today, what are you curious about? What is it that you want to know more about? Could you place a brief comment in the chat, please? What are you curious about? What do you want to know more of? Just one brief comment in the chat, please. Chris, you want to know the limitations of this approach. Okay. Michaela sent a check on my current approach. Yes, you can compare what's working now in what you're already doing. Yeah, thanks, Emily. Improve the outcomes of the interactions. How to get the most out of the interactions. Thank you, Alistair. Motivating those who don't want to inflate the balloon. Yes, we can touch on that. I will certainly comment on that in the end. Nicole, I want to switch from my perspective and help others do the same. Current workplace is problem focused and I want to be solution focused. Well, you're in the right place. Thank you, Nicole. How to frame conversations. Great. Thank you, Ryan. And Darren said that engagement, empowerment of our people. Yes, this is actually helps with engagement and helps with empowering, Darren. Fantastic. Let's keep going. I want to dive straight in and I want to show you what it looks like in action if I ask problem-focused questions compared to asking solution-focused questions. And I just saw the final comments there in the chat. Eric said enhance engagement skills. Yes, that does do this when you're more solution focused. And Belinda says leading people to enlightenment. Oh, that's a big ask, but let's see where we get to with that one, Belinda. Thank you for really putting a stretch goal there for me. So here's what I'd like you to do. Normally when I'm running sessions, I get to see people, but I can't today. So I need to give me an indication on how warmed up are you for me to actually have a conversation with you, asking problem-focused questions and also asking solution-focused questions. Alistair, thank you for that comment about psychological safety. That's what these conversations will help to. So I want each of you, warm-up scale is pick me, to talk about a small challenge that you have at the moment, at work or outside of work. Or the small challenge could be around you want to actually eat more healthily. Yeah, or you want to actually exercise more. So you can choose a challenge, a small challenge that you have at the moment, inside or outside of work, or you can choose how to eat more healthily or how to exercise more. I will have that in your head, and I want you to write down, don't have to write it in the chat, but just write it down on a piece of paper. What is the challenge that you keep thinking about that you have on your mind? Don't make it one of the biggest life challenges, because this time's not going to do it justice, and I don't want to leave you hanging. So challenge, inside or outside of work, healthy eating or exercise. So have a think about which one it is. I want you to write a 10 in the chat if you're really warmed up to make movement on that challenge. A 5, yeah, lukewarm. If no one gets a high score, I'll do it. And a 1 is, there's no chance you're going to let me have a conversation with you around this topic. So when I go 3, 2, 1, put your number in the chat. And Stefan said 8.
So, Annette, I think we should just make it clear that we might be promoting this person to a panelist so that they can speak.
Great comment, Sarah. So yes, we'll be promoting you to be your video on, and so I can have a conversation, so I can see you in this. Yeah. So at the moment, the 8s that I've got coming through are Chris Harris, Keith, and was it Stefan? Did you see an 8 on? Was it Steph? Yeah, all I've got is just Steph. Yeah. So out of the 3 of those people, Steph, Keith, and Chris, could you just put in the chat, what's your topic? What is your challenge about? Is it exercise? Is it eating? Is it challenge at home or work? Yep. If you could just write a brief comment. Okay, so reviewing the business critical risks, trucks hitting power lines is Chris. And Keith is influencing my leaders. All right, I'm wondering, Keith, would you mind if I go with you? So what it'll mean is Sarah's going to change you to a panelist. So Stefan's gone for you. Great, thanks, Stefan. So Keith, you're my selection.
Can you tell me what Keith's surname is? Sadie?
Sadie, yes.
Okay. All right. Keith, you're on.
Could you put your video on, Keith, and unmute yourself?
Unless you're driving a car.
Unmute, okay.
Do you think I could see you?
Can you see me?
Not yet.
Okay, why is that? Oh, hang on. What was this one? Start video.
Yay!
Yay.
Awesome. Lovely to meet you, Keith. And thank you for being so quick to volunteer
Right.
for me. So I just need to set everyone else up in terms of what they're to do. The lighting is a bit difficult to see you. Is there any way of putting a light on? Great.
Oh, that's not very good either.
Is there a blind or a...
I wasn't expecting this.
I appreciate it. I love your spontaneity.
Oh,
Let's go. That should be fine. So
okay.
you sit closer, if you can sit closer to the screen so that people can see you. Awesome. Okay, so here's what everyone else is to do. You are going to play the role of forensic scientist, and you're going to be watching what happens to Keith physically when I ask one set of questions to the other set of questions. And then we're going to debrief. What was the difference? Yeah. So let's start, Keith. So your topic is influencing leaders. So I'm going to ask you some of these questions first, which are problem-focused questions. Then I'm going to ask you another set of questions after this set. Yeah. So tell me, Keith, what is one of your challenges at the moment around influencing leaders?
Well, one of my senior leaders is very entrepreneurial, shall we say. And to explain that a little bit more, entrepreneurial means you need to take risks. And taking too many risks puts you in the wrong place with our regulators and obviously in the workforce and that sort of thing. So trying to get them to understand them taking these risks have a flow-on effect down the line to ultimately to workers. Now it's a fairly large contractor workforce. We will have, it's only small at the moment, with a few of our own internal employees, but he almost condones taking risks.
Okay.
A lot of our our governance system and documented procedures.
Okay. So just remind me, you've said it, but just so for the listeners, why is this such a problem that he's encouraging risk taking?
Because it's completely the wrong risk. It's adverse risk where ultimately you're going to hurt people.
Oh, right. Okay.
We can take risks. There's a level of risk, obviously, that we all take, and there's a level of risk that is acceptable. But some of the risks that is being allowed is not.
Right.
Health and safety professional point of view, it's absolutely a no-go area. And in standards across the board, it's just a not a no-go. But because I think endemically, they've been this way for so long, it's the norm.
Okay.
And so trying to influence them to change their mindset is challenging.
Okay. So what upsets you most about this problem?
The almost defensive attitude to argue against what is glaringly obvious.
Okay. And so what are the biggest barriers you face around this at the moment?
Is, I guess this is me at my level. I will tell you what to do. You won't tell me what to do. So being able to break that get that communication happening, breaking that barrier,
yeah,
to be able to talk on a reasonable level rather than, no, I am and you are.
Right. So the barrier is really the hierarchy, isn't it? And positional power.
Absolutely.
Okay. So shake off that. We're going to move now to being a bit more solution focused. Yeah. So for you, oh, that's unfortunate. The background's black because when it was white, it was bringing you a light. Yeah. So what would you like to achieve around influencing leaders?
Look, I'm not too bad at influencing leaders on the whole. Okay, I'm not too bad. However, there are, nobody's perfect. I don't think. I need to be better at it because I'm not communicating effectively with this person in the right way, at the right level, perhaps at their level, in a way that will actually achieve that connection and allow them to try and listen and understand.
So you want to be able to communicate better with this person so that they understand the implications.
Okay. Could call it just senior people in general.
Perhaps. Yeah, okay, got it. So if this was working well, what would be happening?
There'd be clear lines of communication. There'd be dialogue. There'd be that old open door methodology, or the way they operate would not be so I guess defensive or challenging. Everything is a challenge. You hire an accountant to give you the best advice on how to manage your finances.
Yeah.
You hire a doctor to tell you about your health. You hire somebody like me to give you the best solution.
Yeah.
Cost weighted, of course, because you got to run the business. But if you choose not to listen and then things go sour and it costs you a lot more, it's not logical.
So if it was working well, Keith, what would you be noticing would be different?
As I said, look, there would be a lot more involvement at a senior level.
Okay.
Leadership works, and this is one of my little mantras. If your manager shows they care, your people will care. Right? Live by that for over 20 years.
Love it. Yeah.
And I've got to get them to show that they care. Now, I don't think they don't, in their heart of hearts, I suppose, but what is being displayed is definitely not what people see. So it's that sender receiver of that message.
So you want them to show they care?
I think they need to.
Okay.
Not just for me, but for everybody to understand that this is serious, this is important to me, so it should be important to you. We need it's right.
So has there been a time, Keith, when that you've been able to influence leaders to take responsibility for safety and showing they care? Have you seen it work, even just a hint of it at all?
I have, but unfortunately, I've tried many, been in leadership for a fair while at a manager level for a long time. I've tried lots of different ways of getting the message across. Unfortunately, one of the ways that has worked is threat. So threat of the changes to fines, the pending workhouse safety legislation, the manslaughter clause, the increase in fines, the loss of insurance of directors, those sorts of things have hit home.
Right.
You should never have to get into a threat situation to influence a person, let alone a manager, an employee, or otherwise.
So has there been a time where you haven't had to go to the threat part and you have influenced leaders to care more? Has there been a hint of that with any leader at all?
Look, there has, but it's taken a huge amount of work, a huge. And
what worked?
Beg pardon?
What worked with you persevering and influencing there? What worked?
Demonstrating the outcome if we don't change.
Okay, got it. So what would others notice if you were managing this challenge a little bit more in the direction you want to take it?
What would they notice?
About you, yeah. If you're doing a little bit better at influencing leaders.
I think you'd have a lot more, probably a lot more involvement, a lot more, and that comes from a lot more of an open communication stream. There'd be a greater level of interaction, perhaps.
Okay. So they would notice you are having more interactions with these leaders, and
Absolutely.
you're being asked in to talk about your perspective as a trusted advisor, you know.
Well, that it'd be more like offering solutions to the problem, which is sort of how I prefer to come about this. Look, this is an issue. This is what could happen if we don't, but here is a solution that we could use. There are a couple of other options that doesn't, quite stack up as well as this one, but here is multiple. How would you like to go about this? Try to get, and this is the way I generally work.
Nice. Okay. So if you were to take one single action in the next, 48 hours or next week, what would be one small step that you could take to move forward on this?
Now that's a very good question. I've tried a lot of different methods.
Yeah.
Hence why I'm asking this question to everybody else, because I'd love to hear everybody else's opinion and see if there's something else that works for others that I haven't tried, perhaps, or
okay,
that sort of thing. So look, that's a difficult question.
Okay, a really tiny step. What might you do?
If I could take one single action to move this forward, what would it be? I'd probably need to maybe go directly and just lay it on the table and say, listen, I think we're going in the wrong direction because of this, this, and this, or I think we could do better if we did this, would be.
Okay. And when might you be able to do that? And
that would be like a one-on-one meeting with this person in particular, who's great influence. Not the only person of it, but I'm just focusing on one just for the sake of this discussion.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Trouble is tyranny of distance, so they're based on the East Coast.
Okay. So is it possible to have a Zoom conversation with them in the next few days?
Look, yes is the answer. It is possible.
Okay.
Whether it happens is another matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm impressed, Keith, that you haven't given up. There's still that perseverance in you that's not going to beat you, that you're going to actually help move this forward.
Well, that's my job, right? My job as an educator, I'm a health and safety person, right? HSE guy.
Yeah.
But people ask me what I do, and I tell them, well, I'm an educator. I teach people how to interact safety with operations so we get the best bang for buck every day, and you go home. Yeah. It's in a nutshell. I mean, but that's kind of what you do. You've got to influence people. You've got to help them understand, if we keep going down this line, this could happen.
Yeah, okay.
We need to prevent this. It's all about prevention. And look, quite often when people are focused in their role, they don't always see what happens in the periphery.
Yeah, exactly. So you're creating the bigger picture. Thank you so much, Keith. Really appreciating you putting your hand up to allow me to do this for this exercise. What's been useful from this conversation for you?
For me, look, I suppose it's a realization that I need to take the next step. I've been trying to influence, I guess from afar to, for want of better words. But I guess I will take the next step. And look, I got to admit, it's daunting.
Yeah.
This person is a very high performer, very, very well educated, very well respected. It's difficult.
Yeah. Totally get that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. You've done the hard work now. It's everyone else, the 47 others who are going to comment on what did they notice was different from 1 set of questions to the other. So Sarah's going to be putting you back into being an attendee rather than you being up on the screen. So really grateful for you being the guinea pig for that exercise.
Pleasure.
So what did you notice? Everyone else, just put in the chat, what was one standout thing that you noticed that was different from the first set of questions to the second set, the problem focused questions to the solution focused? What did you notice was different? Just put it in the chat. One thing that you noticed. Remember, your role was to be the forensic scientist.
Annette, I think we're going to have a follow-up webinar because we all want to know what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, Alistair, you're projecting forward. Stefan was more enthusiastic. Yes, responses from the second set. Yeah, Darren, frustration to achievement. So the first set, I was helping him get more and more stuck by asking him more about the questions. Oh, Nicole, very observant, noticing him swivel in his chair on the first set of questions. The second lot, he was composed and confident. Nice pickup. You are a very good forensic scientist there. Michaela, seeing the outcomes lifted the conversation. Yes, getting it to what does he want? What is the outcome he's wanting helps motivate people to move forward on it. More focused on the second set. Yes, thank you, James. And Colin, yeah, couldn't fix it versus taking action. Yes, yeah. So I actually took him to a place of helplessness in the first set of questions. And we actually make the problem get bigger and bigger. And Charlotte, thank you. Yes, thought-provoking questions make him think about it himself, of what he could do about it. Yes, Belinda, he was circling around the problem-focused. He was doing that easier with the solution-focused one. So thank you for those who've commented. Great. Yes. Problem-focused questions help make the problem be bigger. Yep. Solution focus leaps the problem to what is it we want instead of the problem. So I'm going to just show you a way you can think about where do you orientate the conversation, because that is what helps the interaction and helps move things forward. I love this quote from David Cooperrider, which is, people live in the worlds our questions create. So be very, very conscious of where do you take the conversation based on the questions you ask. And I've noticed in particular, safety professionals, because of the nature of your role, it's very problem focused. I'm going to give you an alternative of where you might focus to help make progress in whatever change you're after. And if you're talking about culture change happens through conversation. So let me share with you this lovely way of looking at where do you orientate the conversation. Do you orientate the conversation based on timeline, based on what's happened in the past, or what is it you want going forward? Yeah, so timeline is one axis we can focus the conversation on. So the problem-focused questions focus purely on the past. The solution-focused ones was focused on the future. If we look at this other axis, the content, where do we focus the content of the conversation? On the good stuff, or what's wanted, or the positive, or do we focus on the not so good stuff, what is not wanted or what is not working? If we put that together, we end up with what is a complicated name from a colleague, a solution-focused practitioner in Toronto called Hey Sun Moon. And I love this quadrant because it's such a simplistic way of looking at conversations. How do you help people stay in quadrant 1 and quadrant 2? Yeah, quadrant 1 being the preferred future. So me asking Keith, what does he want instead of what's happening at the moment in terms of influencing leaders? How would he know that he's made progress on this? So the first set of questions were really about quadrant 3 and 4, which is the causes of the unwanted, how come it's such a problem, and understanding that to the nth degree, to, well, if the problem continues, we're going to have the risk, with people's safety going forward. So solution talk actually sticks with quadrant 1 and 2. People might start the conversation in quadrant 3, but how do we quickly reorientate them to what is it they want instead? Yeah. Have they been in this situation before? What worked in the past? So orientating them to, there may be hints of what they're after that's happened in the past. So the question for Keith was, has there been a leader that you have influenced and were conscious of the risks that were there and showed they care? How did you do that? He said, well, it took a lot of time. Yeah, but it did work. So we don't need to understand the problem to help people make progress. So I want you, given this frame of where do you orientate the conversation, I want you to think about 2020 for you. I want you to think about what were the 3 things that you were most pleased about in terms of how you managed, yeah, whether inside of work or outside of work, or how your organization managed, or what influence you had in how they managed through 2020, which was, a big upheaval of real, we're all rocked off our equilibrium at that time. So think about that. What are the top 3 things that you're pleased about and how you managed? And then think about, how did you do that? What was it that enabled you to pivot, the word of the moment last year, the word of the year, or do things differently? What was it? And I want you to just write down one thing that you were most pleased about in the chat of how you managed last year. So managing change, Darren, thank you. So what specifically were you most pleased about on how you managed change? What was it? Stefan, improved communication whilst, skip down, I've got to move back up. This is Stefan, improved communication whilst in New Zealand lockdown and vulnerable team members. Wow. So I'd be curious, Stefan, how did you do that? How were you able to improve communication? Balancing working from, I think you meant to say home there, Nicole. Okay, what else? Belinda, if you don't have an in-depth understanding of the problem and safety, you could lead someone in injury and death by applying a solution that misses. Yeah, that's possible, yeah. Deeper relationships, Alistair, how did you do that? What was it that worked by having deeper relationships? Looking forward, great. Thank you, Wayne. Imparted my knowledge, taking ownership while educating seniors. Yep, awesome. Maintain support. Thanks, Emily. Let's see what else we've got. Chris, maintained relationships online, had to learn new apps. We're all thrown in the deep end in terms of managing through Zoom or Teams or Skype. Keith, establish a high level of trust to manage the COVID impact in my home and business. Thank you very much. Okay, so where have I taken you by asking you this question? I've taken you to the resourceful past, quadrant 2, by asking you how were you able to do that? I could have said to you, list the top 3 things that you're most disappointed with in how you managed through 2020. And that would have taken you to a problem focus. So our questions determine where we take the conversation. Let me just see. Charles has said regular communication with all stakeholders and detailed business continuity plans. Lovely. Thank you, Sarah. Discovering new hobbies in lockdown. Yes, I never knew I enjoyed puzzles so much. So let's keep moving. What is solution focus then? A good way to look at what it is change is happening all the time. The simple way to change is to notice the useful change and amplify it. So what I did with my previous question, asking you, how did you were able to get through last year? What were the 3 things you're most pleased about? Has taken you to notice what the useful change was about. Yeah, and then we build upon it. So if you think of you influencing safety in your workplaces, how do you notice the useful change? And even though it might be just a small thing that happened once off, how do you actually lean into understanding that more? The teams I'm working with in New Zealand around group coaching, around implementing their health and safety index results, is finding when it works and how have they been able to do that. So I was really taken with how safety leadership happens there, that it goes really well. So we've been unpacking how come it goes well, so they can create more of that. Just let me look at the chat. One person says, praise. Yes, certainly agree, Wayne, in terms of making change happen. So if we look at problem focus, it tends to be looking at these things. What's wrong? What needs fixing? Blame and control, causes in the past. The expert knows best, so you take the position as an expert. We're looking for deficits and weaknesses and complications, and we're trying to define it. If you take a solution-focused approach, it tends to look like this, which is what is wanted, what's working already. Has there been some progress that we've made in one side or another that we may need to build on that? It's influencing, it's collaboration, it's finding people's resourcefulness and strengths and building upon that. So what solution focus is not, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions. That's not it at all. It's actually co-creating the solution through the conversation. So my best guess, if you can actually collaborate, you can have a conversation as an equal, as Keith was saying, being in this together, it can actually help influence things quicker. And so the solution focus assumptions are that there's already competence there in the other person or other people. How do we tap into that resourcefulness? How do we tap into those strengths? And allowing people to be the experts in their context. And you're coming in to work beside, but not be the expert imposing. You have a knowledge around safety, but working with people rather than on people has better outcomes. Yeah. So how do we focus what is right rather than what is wrong in finding a way forward and helping influence things? We can work on what's wrong by helping focus on what's right first and building upon that. Yeah. So we're actually good at noticing exceptions to the problem. When the problem happens a tiny bit less, have we been able to do that? If you go back to your own fitness or your own eating healthily, the days you get it right or the days you're a little bit better, how come? What makes it work? I know for me, I'm better if I have a better breakfast. It sets me up well for the day. And we all have off days. Yeah, but looking for exceptions is a key of what solution focus is about. And it works by learning and looking at action, noticing and reflecting on what's worked. So Problem talks creates problems. Solution talk actually creates solution. So how do we steer it more to solution? What is wanted rather than what is not wanted? What's resonating with you? Put a comment in the chat. What's resonating with you? Pena said, what about where organizations don't want to collaborate or take any responsibility for decisions and keep abdicating? Yeah, I realize there are some really tough organizational cultures that you work in. I would suggest that there may be someone who's a little bit wanting to collaborate. So how do you build on that person rather than thinking about everything's broken? Chris, the tone of conversations will be more engaging and better energy. Definitely, yes. Thank you, Marina. Organizational culture needs to be caring. Yeah, and you're probably the ones to model what care looks like. Yeah. Nicole, learn from the past, but don't focus on it. Yes, learn from the past of when it works. Yeah. Shane, the problem focus is somewhat of a millstone around safety management net. Yeah, collaboration is a much more positive approach. Yes, definitely. Asking questions that steer towards collaboration. Yes, Charlotte, you're getting it. Thank you. Okay, I want to do one more activity before we finish up to the day. And I found this lovely quote today on one of the LinkedIn posts that I was reading. The way we listen influences what the other person says. And I think this connects really nicely to this comment around the way you view people impacts the way you show up in the conversation. So if you view people that they have a problem, yeah, we can listen in three ways. We can view them that they have a problem, it's their problem. They are a problem, like some of the people that Keith was talking about before. Or we can listen for the brilliance of listening for their superhero or listening for the strength that's already there. Even when people bringing up problems all the time, there is a strength behind it. Their commitment to persevering to get it right will be behind when someone does that. So I want to show you how do we actually listen, because my work as a coach, I have to be a good listener. Yeah, that I'm being trained over the last 20 years to be a good listener. But what I notice, the average person doesn't listen very well. What is on their mind more is getting their point across. And this lovely work that came from solution-focused practitioners overseas found through microanalysis, what matters most in conversations is our facial gestures, that we're actually listening, our hand gestures when we're talking, and our gaze. And if you can get better at these three things, you are going to show up for the conversation much better. So here's my last chance to do an activity with you before we finish up for the day. So I need another volunteer. And this topic is around what makes you great at your job. Yeah, that's the topic. So again, I'm going to ask you to put in chat, if you're 10, it means you really want me to coach you on understanding what makes you great at your job. If you're a 5, you're lukewarm. If no one else volunteers, you'll do it. And 1 is there's no chance. You're going to talk about how good you are at your job. So when I go 3, 2, 1, please put in the chat 10, 5, or 1. Yeah, who would be up for me to have a conversation around how great you are at your job? Charles has got 5. Have we got any more? Keith has got 5. Oh, Chris, there's no chance you're going to be volunteering. Neither's Pen. Stefan's 4. Great at your job, Nicole, but no camera. That's okay. Yeah, I'm happy for that to happen. Avril's 5. Got any more takers on 5? I might go for you, Nicole. if you're open to us hear you, but you don't have to put your video on this one. Everyone else, I want you to watch what happens. So Sarah, if you could get Nicole up so I can speak to her directly.
Okay, right, yes, Nicole. Cool.
Yes, good on you, Nicole says.
What's Nicole's surname?
N-A-I-double-C was her. Nicole, can you just say your surname?
Oh, sorry, because it's got two C's.
Yeah, two C's, yeah.
All right, Nicole, I've made that happen, hopefully.
Awesome. Nicole, thank you
Yes.
very much for volunteering for this. This is a lovely conversation to have. So tell me, what makes you great at your job, Nicole?
I feel like I'm a reasonable communicator. I have experience and I enjoy coming here.
Awesome. So how do you do that in terms of being a reasonable communicator? What works?
A positive outlook, I guess, open to suggestions, open to listening, and not afraid to put forward my own opinions.
Wow, okay. So it sounds like you partner well with people that you work with and are influencing. In terms of your positive outlook, you're open to suggestions. So you're working with rather than working on people.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Great. What else makes you great at your job?
I guess experience and willingness to learn, taking part in things like this.
Yes. So experience and open to learning. Lovely. And how do you learn? What are the things that really help you learn?
I'm a hands-on learner more than a reader, I guess. I mean, I like reading, but taking part in things, trial and error.
So this is perfect for you, what I'm doing with you now.
Yes, yeah.
And thank you for volunteering for this. Awesome. So what else makes you great at your job?
That's probably it, I think. Just having done it for a while and not being afraid to give things a go. My work environment's pretty flexible. There's different things that pop up each day and just being able to be flexible and deal with them.
Okay, lovely. Well, you've done the hard work now, Nicole. We're going to hear from everyone else. Everyone else, what was the standout strength that you think Nicole has based on what she just said then? And thank you for volunteering, Nicole. I appreciate it. Just put in the chat, what's the standout strength that you've heard? She's clear voice. Nice, Wayne. Courage to volunteer. Yes. Self-confidence and belief in her skill set. Yes. Great confidence. Yes. Oh, wow. Stand out. Confident. Awesome. But humble. Yes, Avril. I heard that too. Open communicator. Working with. Yeah. Willingness to learn. Prepared to listen. Yes. Open to trying new approaches. Yes. Thank you. And so back to you, Nicole. What would be a really small step that you could take to bring out one of those strengths even more, if you could just unmute it?
I guess putting into practice what I've learned today. I did screenshot the problem focus versus solution focus, and that's really what I want to focus on, the collaboration, asking the right questions, and overcoming. We have a few barriers in place at the minute, just procedural, and we want to make some changes, and I think this is going to be a great way to do that.
Fantastic. So what's your first small step you're going to take in terms of helping with this change that you're implementing?
Well, I currently have a list of problems and I'm going to rewrite that with a list of solutions.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Nicole. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So if we, Sarah, you can put Nicole back into being in attendee. So if we view people around their greatness. What have they already got that can be built upon? You actually help people rise to the occasion. And that's what solution focus is doing. Yeah. The assumption is that they have it in them already. Yep. How do we bring it out to do more of it? Yeah. And that's why the work I focus on, I love working with leaders and safety professionals around how they can be more coach-like in their conversations, to walk beside and help co-create the solutions with others. So, in summary, being solution focused there's a simplicity to it. It's where is it you orientate the conversation. Working with what is there and what is working is a really important place to start rather than what is wrong. Yeah. And we wanted to have putting a spotlight on where good practice happens so that more of that can be actually created. So what I do when I work with organizations, I help introduce them to these set of tools, solution-focused tools. So you've experienced the scaling one already. You've experienced the future perfect, what it might look like from Keith around if you'd move forward on it. The counters are looking for what's worked already in the past that we can stack up like casino chips, complimenting people on the strengths that they have and helping them move forward, by small steps, not by giant leaps. Final comments from people before I show a lovely video to end. What's been most useful for you today? One comment. What's been most useful? And yes, Sarah, we can give you the slides that I'm using today. Very happy to share those. So what's been most useful? Just write a comment in the chat. Are being shy? Oh, some are coming through. Yes, Nicole, reframing from focusing on the problem. Yep. Balloon effect approach. Yes, Darren, thank you. Yep. Yeah, it's a different approach. And even though I've been working in this way for 10 years now, I can still get caught out of wanting to go into advice giving and telling people what they should do. But it actually breaks the relationship when you do that. Yeah. So how do you help people discover what they need to do? Thank you, Keith. Reframing to write as solutions, not problems. Yeah. And Alistair, reaffirming the impact coaching skills can have on helping others overcome their challenges. Yes. Being coach-like. You don't have to be like me and be a professional coach, but you can use some of the coaching skills. So how I want to end is I want to show this lovely clip, which actually connects with how we help people listen for people's brilliance. And it's a clip that shows how for kids, we can label kids easily. And I think we do this in the workplace. We label people pretty quickly of what their psychological disorder is based on our experience of interacting. Mightn't be helpful. There's actually a strength that sits behind that. So let's have a watch of this. And let me just make sure my sound is working. And here we go. Oh, it stopped. Okay, I'm just going to go to my final slide, but I have to bring it back up again. So thank you, folks. Thank you for the interaction. I do have an offer for the first 5 people that connect with me on LinkedIn. Actually the first 3 people to connect with me on LinkedIn, I will offer a 30-minute free coaching session for you to help you with any way you would like. So here, use the same QR code, works like we do when we sign in COVID. That will connect you straight to my LinkedIn. So the first 3 I get will get a free 30-minute coaching session. The work I do is helping leaders and safety professionals be more coach-like. I do mentoring programs, and I also work with groups of people to implement change in organizations through group coaching as well as individual coaching. So thanks, everyone. Thank you particularly to Keith and Nicole. And you're a given. You get a free coaching session, the 2 of you. So I will give you 2 as well as 3 others an opportunity to work with me. So thank you so much. And thanks, Sarah, for allowing me the opportunity to present to your group.
Yeah, it's actually been very, very wonderful. I think that the involvement with the participants is really refreshing to see and have that happen. So that was really good. We've got 1 question so far, and I think I can answer that. Is there a reference for the facial hand gestures and the gaze info, please? Those slides will be coming along with the email later today with the video. So thanks, Sue. And we don't have any other questions. I think everyone was able to share their thoughts in that chat. And hopefully we can re-quote some of those chats on the webpage that will be sent with the email later today too. So has been awesome. I hope there's going to be more, Annette.
Fantastic. Yeah. Love to come back.
Great. All right. Well, we're pretty much, we're over time. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that's really good. Thanks, Annette. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope everyone has a lovely rest of their week. And yes, we'll, if you have any questions, Annette's contact details will be on the email, of course, later today as well. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye. See ya.